Hello, dear friends. Eckhart Tolle had a mystical experience, but then he adapted to the system in order to survive. I don't blame him, because he's my mirror. The problem is that this adaptation causes a lot of suffering. Opinion piece. Disclosure: we are not alone. New website Aliens.gov. Chaos brings opportunities. Let's start. The release of all official files related to alien and extraterrestrial life, unidentified aerial phenomena, and UFOs has been ordered in the US. The release could include videos and photos of non-human craft that prove we are not alone, according to the New York Post. The President's Executive Office has registered the domain Aliens.gov as a discreet but unmistakable step toward a potential public portal for declassified materials or unidentified anomalous phenomena. This follows the directive to release all government files related to extraterrestrial life and unidentified aerial phenomena, UFOs. Filmmaker Dan Farah also predicted on Joe Rogan's podcast that Trump might declare that humanity is not alone, confirming the recovery of non-human technology amid a secret global race. Also noteworthy is the warning from Helen McCaw, a former Bank of England analyst, about the need to prepare for a potential economic impact stemming from the disclosure of information, including market volatility and the loss of institutional trust. The administration seems determined to impose transparency, where its predecessors allowed compartmentalization to persist. Skeptics have dismissed the accounts, but pilots, radar data, and credible military witnesses continue to describe phenomena that defy conventional explanations. Judgment Day. The worse it seems, the closer we are. According to Kavamur, the so-called Day of Judgment is a shift where darkness and light separate into two realities. The elite have underground bunkers. They know something is coming. I don't think they are worried about a possible power shift. How do they know what's coming? Contact with negative entities in dark rituals. The UFOs that deactivate nuclear weapons belong to the coalition of worlds. They are protecting us from threats and giving us clues. Military commanders outside the inner circle of the good guys don't want to talk about the coalition of worlds because that reveals how powerless they really are. Crossroads. The upheaval that chaos brings creates opportunities for light. According to Steve Biko, humanity is at the crossroads leading to what many have called the Great Awakening, and this is no time to remain silent or asleep. Most of the world is asleep to the danger posed by the dark side. The powers that be are on the ropes and can no longer threaten the world with their dominance, but they can still wreak havoc. We need to unite to support the role of what Werner Erhard called a world that works for everyone. Such a world is an ascended world, where the love we feel makes the world work for everyone. This is the battle we came to fight, each in our own way, to liberate and pave the way for ascension. According to Judy Bington, the coalition originally included 17 countries: Australia, France, Hungary, Germany, Poland, Romania, Spain, the Netherlands, Norway, Russia, Finland, Sweden, Denmark, Croatia, Canada, North Korea, and the US, including an international force authorized to make arrests in any country. Middle East. Missile shortage due to drone warfare. Another F-35 stealth fighter jet shot down over Iran. Trump rules out deploying troops to Iran. Trump considers deploying troops along the Hormuz coast. The Senate rejects the attempt to restrict Trump's power. The White House will request an additional $2,000 billion from Congress for the war. Netanyahu denies his death with a clip that Grok labeled as AI-generated. Israel gives the green light to targeted assassinations of high-ranking Iranian officials. New wave of missiles over Israel's skies. Lebanon asks Trump to stop Israel bombing the country. Iran launches missiles against the U.S. Fifth Fleet and Israeli refineries. U.S. claims to have destroyed Iran's submarine fleet and military posts. Iran warns of a second Vietnam as the conflict intensifies. Israeli attacks hit the South Pars gas field, disrupting the global fertilizer supply chain. Trump spoke with Netanyahu after the gas field attack. We are never going to do it again, he answered. NATO holds intense discussions on how to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. The US takes control of Iranian oil routes in the Strait of Hormuz. Naval escort does not guarantee 100% safety for an oil tanker in the Strait of Hormuz. A ship was attacked and set on fire off the coast of the Emirates. Iran attacks Qatari gas facilities, which have already doubled their price in a month. The attack on Qatari natural gas is worse than the Nord Stream attack. Dubai went from eating insects and lizards to becoming the epicenter of luxury in half a century. Economy. The dollar falls and gold plunges. Gold is headed for its worst week in 6 years. Iranian oil exports soar. Stock markets close lower due to inflation concerns. The IMF warns of significant disruptions to the global economy. Global markets plummet amid rising energy prices. Oil prices fall to $106 after rebounding during the day. Brent crude briefly surpassed $119 per barrel before retreating. The possibility of oil reaching $200 cannot be ruled out, given the collapse in supply. Attacks on Gulf energy companies threaten global gas supplies. Geopolitical crisis drives energy diversification. U.S. accelerates billions of dollars worth of emergency arms sales to Gulf countries, bypassing Congress. Central banks buy more gold amid conflict. The saturated gold market begins to unravel. The new dollar will be launched this year. The super dollar triggers the biggest drop in precious metals since the health crisis. Judy Shelton says there will be gold-backed treasury bonds by July 4th, and hopefully gold-backed currency by that same date. Russia raises billions in 2 weeks of war. China considers releasing the world's largest oil reserve. The renewable energy sector is betting on storage and hybridization. Europe. The EU confirms diplomatic contacts with Iran to seek a solution to the conflict. The EU seeks a diplomatic solution in the Strait of Hormuz and distances itself from the US. European leaders see a de-escalation in Iran as necessary to give negotiations a chance. Greek Patriot missile systems have shot down 2 Iranian ballistic missiles in Saudi Arabia. The ECB raises its 2026 inflation forecast to 2.6% and lowers its growth forecast to 0.9%. Lagarde warns that the war could raise inflation to 3.5% in 2026. The ECB makes public its worst nightmare: oil at $150 and inflation at 5%. The fertilizer crisis hits Europe, high prices and dependence on Russia. The Portuguese government approves a law to accelerate the deportation of immigrants. Orbán maintains his veto on the loan to Ukraine. Zelensky pledges to restore crude oil supplies as soon as possible. Peace talks in Ukraine suspended. Spain. The surge in tourism during Holy Week will generate 164,000 jobs, 12.1% more than in 2025. Spain is already seeking its place in the quantum race. Companies like Santander, BBVA and Telefónica are already working on quantum technologies. The IBEX 35 falls below 17,000 points, pressured by oil prices, the Fed and the ECB. 100 Spanish soldiers have been evacuated from Iraq to Turkey, and another 200 will be evacuated in the coming hours. The lack of effective laws against squatters is deterring wealthy individuals from moving into Spain. Chinese car brands are intensifying the price war in Spain. Americas. Mexico analyzes various strategies to send oil to Cuba. Cuba invites its exiles to invest on the island. The crisis in Cuba depends amid blackouts and food shortages. An open arms flotilla will deliver photovoltaic generators to Cuba. 2 oil tankers flying the flags of Russia and Hong Kong are reportedly en route to Cuba. Costa Rica breaks off diplomatic relations with the Cuban regime. The capture in Mexico of Lobo Menor, Little Wolf, is a major blow against drug trafficking. Cristina Fernández de Kirchner returns to the Argentine courts to testify in a corruption case. Chile's wall on the border with Peru could reopen all disputes. Brazil offers to mediate between Colombia and Ecuador. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.